I'm at the International Conference on Men's Issues 2019 with Phil, one of the attendees. And so, what's your experience of the conference been so far?
It's very full.
Yeah.
It's this is day 3,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a marathon of speakers and influences between two speakers. We have like 15 minutes a gap, and in this gap usually you talk to other people about certain things, and then in the evening you talk some more, and every night I go to bed between 2 and 4 o'clock. So
Okay, right, yeah, yeah.
it is exhausting, but it's absolutely amazing.
So you've sort of been on it all of the evenings so far, and
Yeah.
one more evening to go. So
Yes, and I'm very much looking forward to it, and I wish it would go on for another couple of days.
okay, yeah, me too. Actually, I think that would be pretty good. But like this morning, there was an excellent talk. I thought there was
About
the
fatherlessness.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
very,
and
very good. I wish that after every talk there was actually like a 1 or 2 hour workshop where people could sit together and come up with solutions how we can tackle the issues. So I think that's maybe the only thing um, that leaves me dissatisfied. That I'm like, let's talk about the solutions,
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
highlight a lot of issues, um, but a brainstorming from, because there are so many people here now, it would be great to get all the different viewpoints and how we can tackle these issues. That would be great.
Yeah. And just in terms of the general problems caused by the movement of feminism and a society, I'd say, that doesn't really value men all that much, and that does privilege women a lot of the time, and
Absolutely, but and and we have to push back against feminism. That's for sure. But at the same time, we also have to look at what can we as men do. How can we support each other? Because it will take time to change laws and to push back, if we're even able to do that. Because it's a very powerful movement and a very powerful narrative. So, but what we can do is we can protect each other.
right,
But we men are not very good at looking out for each other. We have to retrain that, I think.
So, what, just offering each other more support, or just
Yes, and being role models for other men.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'm a hairdresser in my little village, and I cut a lot of young men's hair. And every time I cut their hair, I also talk to them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I listen to their issues, and I try to give them a little bit of, not fatherly, but big brotherly advice. I will not tell them, look, don't drink and stuff like that, but I tell them, be sensible, be careful. I don't have the same authority that a father would have, but maybe I have a little bit of wisdom gathered by years.
Yeah, sure. And so it's just passing that on to other younger guys and
Exactly.
sort of looking out for them a little bit.
Exactly, and telling them to look out for each other. And I do see quite a bit of that. I listen to them, and they're like, "Oh, I was talking to this friend of mine, and he's suffering under certain issues, and I was talking to him, and I'm so proud when these kids tell me that they're looking out for each other, but they need more support in doing that."
Yeah. And in terms of the issues, what do you think? Do you think there's one that's sort of overpowering everything? I mean, I'm kind of. I think that the fatherlessness situation is
It's a big
that's,
one.
Yeah.
I would say fatherlessness or male role models is definitely an issue. For me, another big issue, which what I see in where I live, because where I live, most of the kids grow up with their fathers. But there is an issue with school, that boys are not encouraged,
Yeah.
and that girls are not being held accountable.
Yeah.
So, for example, when in school, when they have training about consent, it's really just, men have to ask the girl if she consents, not the other way around.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
never, it's usually not a conversation that you have to be respectful to each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, hey boys, you have to respect girls, and when you see another boy disrespecting a girl, you have to protect her. Well, I agree with that, but if a girl disrespects a guy, another girl should also step up and say, hey, stop that behavior.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we should help people being better people.
I think so. I mean, I think there's the the kind of the consent issue, which is it's seen as no big problem if a woman is basically harassing a guy and
I, I've
whatnot, and
I've been sexually harassed seven times in the last 7 years by women.
yeah, yeah.
Um, One of these harassments was a girl literally crawling in my bed and
Uh-huh.
trying to force herself on me. And in the end, I ended up sleeping on the floor because I couldn't push her out of the bed. First of all, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but you just don't do that with a girl. You're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
mean. And if I had pushed her out, what's she gonna say the next morning? She gonna say that I tried to force myself on her?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you try to get out of this situation, and it's insane when you think that you leave your own safe space because somebody else invades it and you can't do anything about it, even though obviously you could do something about it.
Yeah, you don't feel at all protected in those
Exactly.
situations. You
Exactly.
feel as though if she makes any kind of comment, then that could be it for me. That
Exactly,
I
and
could face such major repercussions from that and so on.
and if I would, for example, and the situation wasn't as grave, and it wasn't so grave that I would have to report her. But if I felt like I have to report this person, this woman, to the police, they wouldn't take it seriously.
Yeah, there's the kind of anti-male attitude that I think they do show a lot of the
Or
time. And
pro-female.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the other one that I've seen is that, okay, so men are told not to hit women, and it's a good thing they're told that because it's not a productive way to spend
Yeah.
your time and stuff, and it's pretty hideous and horrible thing to do. But I don't think women are taught not to shame men.
And not to hit men.
Yeah,
So that's the thing. Women are not even taught not to hit men.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
problem is, if men are taught not to hit women, but women aren't taught not to hit men, that leads to domestic violence cases where women abuse men and almost kill them, and the man will not fight back, will not protect themselves because they're so indoctrinated in you don't defend yourself.
yeah, yeah.
And unfortunately, maybe that's the smart thing to do, because as soon as you protect yourself physically, you're the one going to prison.
Yeah, and I mean, I completely agree with this. I think, there's this whole idea that the woman can kind of get away with anything in that situation, so she can attack the guy and it's all good. But then if he lays a hand on her, then suddenly the police appear and all of these other men suddenly appear and they're ready
Yeah.
to stop it and
I,
so on.
I
And it's
have,
like,
I,
yeah, but look at the build up. This
yeah,
whole thing was building up for a while, and
yeah.
her
I have to,
behaviour was completely out of. It was ridiculous,
yeah.
and it was always heading in that direction. So,
I
yeah,
have to give full credit to all the policemen and women and the male and female judges that look through that, that that do judge gender neutral.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I've heard of many cases where especially like female police officers and female judges actually really took the side of the man, and
right,
like,
yeah, yeah,
no, I can clearly see that she's lying and he's telling the truth. And maybe that's because women know women, and maybe they have maybe it's easier for them to cut through the crap.
yeah, yeah. I do think there is the other issue of women using shaming tactics as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And, it's kind of like, well, if men are barred from using their greatest weapon, their fists,
Yeah.
then I think women should also be barred from using their most terrifying weapon, which is kind of emotional manipulation. And so, I just see, I just kind of think if you want to have more niceness in, the way the
But
two,
that, but
in
it's
the way that men and women interact, then there just needs to be a promotion of people actually being civil and, just,
exactly.
yeah,
There
yeah.
needs to be a promotion of being good to each other. It's almost impossible to. It's very difficult to punish shame, except of shaming them for their shaming tactics.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we can do. We can't put into legislation that. For the most part, we can't put into legislation that shaming tactics should be punished. In the
I
UK,
was thinking more along the lines of, this is just the lesson we tell boys in school. Say,
yeah,
don't ever hit a girl, but we don't really tell girls,
not
not
to
to be an absolute
manipulate,
dick towards boys and
not
stuff.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, but again, that should be gender neutral from both
yeah,
sides. It's like,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
no point in going to girls and saying, hey, girls, don't manipulate, don't shame, and hey, boys, don't hit. No, we have to say, hey, guys and girls,
Yeah, yeah.
this is how you're respectful towards each other.
Yeah, I think that's all pretty good points and so on. And yeah, I mean, otherwise, do you think that, I mean, because I am liking the fact that I went to the conference last year, it was pretty big. This year, it's massive. And I just like the direction it's all going in. It's getting bigger and bigger each year. And, it's bigger stars and so on.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. I th-
it seems as though there is some momentum there.
There's definitely some momentum. What I notice is that some of the, let's say, hard science behind men's issues, so statistics and academical approach, is slightly slipping under the radar because of current political issues. And I think, like, I watch the YouTubers all the time, and I'm so happy that they're here, and that's great. But the scientific man's issues need to have a big platform as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think we need to find a balance the where the big names draw an audience for um, the things that are largely ignored, like the academic things that are largely ignored.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, like, yeah, the entertainers do quite well, whereas, I mean, with people who promote hard science, it
It's
works if
hard.
they're able to entertain as well.
Exactly.
But if they're not, then you can't really defend it too much because they just gave a boring lecture. So, yeah,
I
yeah.
100% agree. But I think that just like the way that feminists often work is they have these, like, bam, statistics,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like only 2% are false allegations, blah blah blah, so very flashy. And I think that at this conference, even though it would be preaching to the choir, having highlighting certain issues in a pop cultural way, or for example having leaflets here that MRAs can take home with them, or
Yeah,
posters where it says, like, oh, these are some of the statistics. Take one of the posters home, put it in your shop, put it somewhere. So I think we should not forget that we need to bring these numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
We need to bring awareness to these numbers. and the culture war, it's incredibly important, obviously.
Yeah.
But even if the culture war, even if, for example, and it's a bit of a shame that it's a like left and right thing to a certain extent, and I don't see it only as a left and right thing. But even if the more truthful side of the culture war wins, there is still gynocentrism.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
and so even if truthful people or people that have society as a large at heart, even if they win, they will still be, for the most part, blue-pilled.
Yeah, I think some of that will exist, but I do think, I think there's like gynocentrism will always be there, but equally, it's important to kind of give men their space as well, and to also think well of them, and to allow them to develop. And
One of the speakers yesterday said when the Duluth model was put in place, it was the perfect time because it was the beginning of the women's liberation movement, or, well, feminism. Um, and the Duluth model worked well for feminism, but it also worked well for conservatives because it was working within this system. Men are strong, women are weak, which is also a conservative viewpoint.
Yeah.
So it worked for these both sides. If we have more traditional values, um, if traditional values are coming back in our society, that will solve some of the problem, but it will still not fix the issue that male suffering is being ignored.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we have to tackle these issues from different sides.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, thanks for talking to me.
My pleasure.
And let's go and see some more shows or some more talks.
Brilliant, thank you.
Cheers, man.